Welcome, golf fans, pursuers of knowledge and the almighty dollar. This is your golf guru bringing you the 2020 RSM Classic preview and a little bit of a Masters recap show. So let's get into this, talk about the Masters. I think we're all probably a little hungover from a great Masters weekend. We saw a lot of first. We saw DJ who won, breaking the course record of shooting 20 under. We saw Cameron Smith, who was the first player ever in 84 master tournaments to shoot 4 rounds of 60 or under 70. You also had Sungjae M, who was the first rookie to shoot 15 under, which would have been a good enough score to win the Masters 83 other times. Yeah, and then we had some interesting, guys that ended up on the leaderboard. So we're going to talk a little bit about the leaderboard. I think that it's worth time, so we'll work our way down. Cameron Smith, I pointed out, and even in my top plays and fades, but for the last couple months through the FedEx playoffs and everything, I kept touting to play Cameron Smith. Again, he would have won the tournament if Dustin didn't go out and shoot lights out. So it was an amazing pick at his price. So if you played a bit of Cameron Smith, you probably did very well. Sungjae M, I didn't play Sungjae M at all in my core. I've had him a few times. I think the guy was playing some of the best golf before the shutdown, and then after the shutdown, when he came back, he struggled. But then, the tee to green game was on point. But then he was missing 2 or 3 footers left and right, so his putting just wasn't there. So that's why I was off Sungjae. But Justin Thomas, he was in my top plays. Of course, DJ was in my top plays. Rory, actually, I played him a couple times in my 20 lineups that I built, but I did fade him. And in the beginning, it looked like a great play when he came out and shot a 75. And if you watched any of his rounds, he looked like he was just lost. And then what a comeback he made to end up with a T5. And then Dylan Fratelli, did not see that coming. I like Dylan. I like him for Showdown. Of course, he's got, a win on the PGA Tour. I didn't know he actually played the Masters before, but again, I didn't even look at Dylan. But what a great play. He would have been down in the low 6,000s. That was a miss that I had. Also didn't know that Dylan found some new length working on his speed. So note to self, we got to keep an eye on Dylan Fratelli moving forward. Brooks Koepka, it wasn't his best showing, and he's definitely not happy with the 7th, but comparative to get some leverage on the field. Of course, he was one of my picks, was in my player pool. John Rahm, now on this side, disappointing for his costs that he ended up where he, was at, but just struggled a bit on Saturday and Sunday. He struggled off the gate, did make a bit of a comeback. But yeah. And then CT Pan. Now here's a funny one. I actually looked at CT Pan quite a bit because of his win at Harbour Town. That course is a very difficult course. You have to be very accurate, but also, he had a great week of putting. And funny enough, that same tournament, Mr. Dustin Johnson was actually leading going into Sunday, only by a stroke. But when you saw Dustin Johnson, CT Pan, and Shane Lowry at that time, it was a no-brainer that Dustin, should have won that tournament. And he actually shot 6 over, just fell apart. I think he ended up with a T28. Then he had Patrick Reed routing out a 10th place finish, which again was in my player pool. We kind of move down, I'm not going to sit there and go into too much, but what I like the best about, my picks was this kind of, don't forget the 8K. Well, there was my 8Ks and below, if you don't include Patrick Cantlay, which Patrick Cantlay, I don't know, a T17 for his cost. I'd say it's kind of I didn't have a lot of Cantlay. I didn't fade him, but he was minimal in my player pool. I did have a little bit of Paul Casey, but not a ton. But at one time, it looked like, he was tied for the lead after Thursday. I was like, oh, wow. But which was kind of interesting also was that came out where he had an interview. I'm not sure who it was with, just stating that he was just wore out, tired, just playing so much golf. He was, of course, going to focus on the Masters, but after this was ready for a vacation, for a long break. So I don't think we'll be seeing Casey for a while. And then Cameron Smith, again, we already talked about him. Ian Poulter, for the price, T25, he had a good, pretty good Sunday. But yeah, just kind of up and down. But I'm sure he would have wished he would have finished better. And I had a bit of him. And then Matt Wallace for 6,800 to make the cut, coming at T46. Again, so I hit 100% on these guys, so that was good. And then my fades, I'm pretty happy with. I'm not going to lie. My only one is Rory. But again, for a while there, it looked like that was a great fade. And again, it's not because I'm not a Rory fan, a huge fan of Rory. But my call on DeChambeau, he started out, and I give the guy, there was a couple things, right, with DeChambeau. There was the, he hit the drive just off, I don't know, I want to say just off the fairway, but it wasn't too far off the fairway into a marshy, or not marshy, but a kind of a standing water area, and they just couldn't find it. I guess they did find it later, but it was too late after the 3-minute rule. I think that just was like the straw that broke the camel's back. He was already off and on before that. Then he kind of claimed, I think on Friday or Saturday, that he was feeling some dizziness, had a COVID test. I'm not saying he didn't, but, it was just kind of quinky dink. And I guess the problem with it was just how much DeChambeau was just kind of crammed down our throats. And it was just all about DeChambeau, and this tournament's over. I kind of talked about this in length with the preview show. And so not a shocker that he ended up struggling, almost missing a cut. Schauffele, not, again, I like Xander, but just watching his game lately and just watching the past few rounds, I kind of mentioned the approach shots for one round just falling apart. He struggled a bit. Fleetwood, actually, for a T19 was kind of shocking. He fell back on Sunday, but Saturday, did well. And also we got to remember, with everything we're talking about, as everybody saw, the course conditions, at least for the first 3 rounds, was just totally different than typically what you see at a Masters. Just also, not having the rise set in, so a different grass kind of around the greens and the fairways. They already mentioned that was going to make things a little easier. And then you had wet conditions. You had no wind really until Sunday. Really, Sunday was the closest that, what a typical Masters plays as. And then Matthew Wolff, I don't think anybody had to be a golf guru or a wizard to predict that he was going to struggle. He's just, something's happened. And if you track back and look at Matthew's complete career history, he's done this already. We've seen the highs for a while, and then we see the real lows for a while, and then he kind of comes. So at some point he'll turn it back around. All right, enough about that. All right, so let's move on. We do have a new tournament, and it's a pretty good field. Because this is only 3 hours away from Augusta, heading towards the water at St. Simons. We're going to the RSM Classic. It's at the Sea Island Resort. There is 2 courses in rotation here. There's Seaside and Plantation, which is a little bit like what you'd see when they go play Pebble Beach and play Monterey. I'm not 100% sure. I looked at everything I can find that are they going to actually, do every other day. So Thursday they're going to do Seaside, half the players, and the other half go play Plantation. That's my expectations. I'll be honest with you. I don't think I've ever watched the RSM Classic, maybe, caught this, but this is my first kind of super dive into RSM. And so I'm learning a little bit on my own, but I'm going to give you all the information I have and how I'm going to go about picking winners. I'm trying to see if there's anything specific. So, it's both courses are pretty similar, except Plantation's a par 72, Seaside's a par 70. From a yardage perspective, they're pretty similar, around 7,000, maybe a little less on one, a little over on the other. Decent sized purse. You got Bermuda fairways and rough. You also got Paspalum, which anytime you're next to the, ocean or water, I should say, anytime you're right next to a seaside, that you are going to, it's easier to maintain. That's why you'll see Paspalum around, like at Corrales or wherever. We got Bermuda greens. And just give you some idea of what, what kind of, scoring, they can definitely, this is a very gettable course. The last 2 years, 19 under has been actually taken to a playoff. And I think it was Tyler Duncan who won last year. And then you've got the previous winner, Charles Howell, Austin Cook, Mackenzie Hughes, and Kevin Kisner. Now we also, I didn't go examine the fields, but as you can kind of see, there's not, typically was not the strongest field. I think because, again, the Masters being so close and the way it fell, that we've got, and Webb Simpson's played here before, and this is a Webb Simpson course. He's going to be favored from Vegas betting odds, and he's going to be the highest cost guy, of course, in DFS. And then you also got Terrell Hatton will probably be next, and then, you know, working the way down. But this is a plotter's course. And I broke them both down. We'll get into that, but just that high level. Average cut line is anywhere, you know, four under was the cut last year, and then 1 under in 2018. And of course, you know, we are not going to get the Masters website and app. That was pretty awesome to be able to kind of just anytime commercials, or you could just kind of work your way through, have multiple screens going, not missing any action. We are back to Golf Channel coverage and but PGA Live. And again, if you do have PGA Live, you get to watch, you know, certain groups from, you know, the time they tee off all the way through the whole thing. So good coverage there. All right, so let's talk about some of the courses here. Sea Island, Seaside. I tried to sit here and see, especially for Showdown, was there any, like, hey, you know, if you know your guys, when you pick your team, are going off Plantation versus Seaside or vice versa, is there really a big difference in an advantage? And, you know, my quick kind of glance at this was no. If you look at the birdie areas here for Seaside, there's 6 holes called out where guys typically will birdie or have, you know, a chance at eagle. Looks like this number 15 is the biggest chance for an eagle, shorter par 5. And then from a bogey perspective, you got 6 holes that show up, you know, on a bogey side. So that's what I'm just trying to show here is that, you know, was there a real gain? And if you, I'm just going to skip to this. If you look at Plantation, it's very similar. You got 6 holes that look like a very birdable. At Plantation is a par 72. There is an extra par 5, but it didn't mean that, hey, you know, one course looks significantly easier than the other from past history. You know, on the same on the bogey side, you've got 6 holes that, you know, where typically guys will make bogeys. So on that note, you know, I don't see a big difference. And then if we look at, you know, where from a course to a course perspective on what's important, you know, it's really, it comes down to driving the ball accurate here. It doesn't have to be length. So you can see here, average distance is not a priority, but accuracy is a priority. Of course, you know, hitting greens is a priority all the time. The whole composition is a little different. We'll go over that. So when I make my model, I'll include them both, but it looks like, you know, these par 4 to 450. And again, what this is looking at is guys, the top 10 finishers for the past. So we've got about 10 years of history for the RSM Classic at this course. It was called, I don't even know what the name of it was, Galdry or something. It was a weird name before the RSM. But what I'm getting to is that the whole breakdown is, you know, is pretty similar, but there is a little difference you'll see. And then approach shot, you know, again, because it's a shorter length course, you know, your majority of the approach shots will be between 125 and 175. All right, moving on to Plantation. Again, I called this up because it just seemed like greens regulation for some odd reason came up a little higher. And again, average fairways gained, again, just the guys that are hitting the fairways is the key thing. So we don't need length, we need accuracy, which, you know, hence the Webb Simpsons. I think I even saw Ryan Armour in here. You know, Ches Reavie, you know, I don't know if he's actually playing in this, but I'm just pulling out guys out of my hat that typically not long, but very accurate off the tee. Then hole composition here kind of gets a split, as you see, and that's, you know, what I thought was interesting, where it kind of leans towards the 350, 400 more than the other side. And then, of course, you know, pars are very key. And then this is actually what kind of cued me in when I started looking at past course conditions for this tournament. When I saw these, you know, multiple areas, usually you just have 4 for each year, right? And then I noticed, oh, wait a minute, you know, they're actually teeing off and playing 2 different courses for the first 2 days. And as you kind of see, it looks like they'll finish. It looks like it's a rotation where the field of 156, we are back to 156 field, go off, you know, half and half on Plantation and Seaside. That goes on for Thursday, Friday, and then after the cut, then they're going to stay on Seaside to finish up Saturday, Sunday. So that's how it's played in the past, and I'm assuming that's how it's going to play here going forward. But yeah, back to the conditions. I mean, you know, hitting fairways, you know, it's coming in as easy, rough length short, fast greens. So, you know, we're going to need good putters. this past year, it was pretty calm, but I did do, because it is on water or next to water, of course, wind can be a factor. And, you see scoring relative to par. Typically, the wind picked up a little bit, so it, got a little more difficult, but pretty easy. And as I mentioned, we're looking at, a 19 to 20 under to win this thing. And then this real quick, I just pulled up a quick glance at the field at Seaside. So what I also noticed is it looks like ShotLink data is only for Seaside. So they don't set up ShotLink at both courses. And it looks like because Plantation is only used for 2 rounds. So pretty much a lot of our focus is going to be using past historical data at Seaside. And this is looking at this about the top 20 or top, 25 guys. And all I looked at was tee to green, who was gaining the most strokes at Seaside, tee to green. And that's what this is showing. So kind of oddly enough, Kevin Chappell, who I would have not guessed that he would have popped up there number 1, tee to green. But I don't know if this is a course where he went off and shot like a 59 or something ridiculous. So I'll have to go look into that. But yeah, and he's had 17 rounds there. So, and this is at Seaside. So that's interesting. Of course, we mentioned Webb Simpson. Lucas Glover, that wouldn't have shocked me typically, but Lucas, again, missed the cut at the Masters, actually did not play well at all. Kind of fell apart. Vaughn Taylor. Chris Kirk is interesting. He is a local and actually have a list of locals, so I'll go over that real quick. I didn't put that into a PowerPoint or a presentation form, but we will talk about the people that are local that are playing in this tournament. But Chris Kirk, note to self, I'm sure I'll do some more diving into him, but he's an interesting play. As I mentioned, a St. Simmons native. Tyler Duncan, no shocker. He won the previous year in a playoff. See Ches Reavy, no shocker. Charles Howe, that's an interesting local guy. Austin Cook is a previous winner, as we talked about. Just seeing Corey Connors makes sense. Very accurate tee to green. Kisner, past winner. We talked about him in 2016, I believe. Brian Gay's kind of interesting. I'm not looking at him, but of course he just won recently. And I'm always blanking at the Bermuda, which would have been a nice payday if I would have bet him outright, but I didn't. I was not on Brian Gay, but we'll have to look at him because one of the better putters. I already mentioned Ryan Armour. Russ Henley, he could be very live. I'm guessing he's going to be pretty expensive. Of course, pricing has not come out yet. It is about 12:30 Eastern on Monday while I'm recording this, so we should get pricing out, I think, around 3 o'clock-ish. Patrick Rogers is interesting. He's been playing pretty well. So what, like I said, so this is just my first, I did not build a model yet. I don't have pricing. I just wanted to give you some information. And I did mention I would cover the guys who are local in the field. Let me see. All right, so who's natives here? So we got Chris Kirk, I mentioned. Brian Harmon is also a local native here, and he would be, it's a pretty good play. We'll have to look into him. You got Zach Johnson, Harris English, and Kevin Kisner. Of course, Harris English was a Georgia Tech Bulldog. Davis Love, of course, did the redesign on, I believe it was the Plantation course. I might be wrong, but he usually kind of hosts this tournament, but I know he's not playing in it due to some back injuries. Not that we'd be really looking to rostering him. Maybe as I would guess he'd be pretty cheap if you wanted to try to build a crazy stud, but I'm not guessing. This is not going to be a studs and duds kind of build this time. This is going to be, I think you can go pretty balanced, and we're going to focus on, again, guys that are very accurate off the tee and approach, but nothing about length. Some of the key notables, I think, that are also, I didn't mention, Sebastian Munoz will be here. Brendan Todd would have been an interesting play. But again, his game just, again, he missed the cut at the Masters, and just, his game's just not playing. Brian Stroud or Stewart. I literally mix those two guys up all the time. They're like the doppelgangers. So Brian Stewart, Stuard, is in the field. I think he'll be an interesting play. Trying to see if anything else pops up to me here. Got Sam Burns back. Joaquin Neiman is listed to play. I don't know the whole COVID thing, if he'll be able to play, but that'd be an interesting play. And Kokrak will be here. Doc Redman. Kokrak, of course, missed a cut at the Masters. Not saying, again, with the length, but Doc Redman might be interesting. He's been just nipping, and Sam Burns will be nipping. So, yeah, that's just some notables. So that's about it. I'm going to call this a wrap for the RSM Classic. Again, please, if you're getting value, if you like what I'm doing, if you don't like what I'm doing, please comment. Let me know what you don't like and what you'd like to see different. Share this with anybody else that's betting or doing DFS golf, and it would help greatly if you subscribe now. We just broke the 50 subscribers. Woohoo! So if I keep seeing an uptick in views and subscribers, I'm going to keep doing this and keep working on making the show better. Thanks so much again. I hope you guys had a great Masters. I hope on a note from, I didn't put my, typically I haven't been doing that the last couple, but put in my best lineup. I had, out of 20 hand-built lineups, I had 6 of 6 going live, but I had, I think, Rose, Answer. I'm just thinking of the guys. I had, of course, had DJ, but Rose and Answer kind of hurt me on Sunday, or I would have, done, but I think I cracked the top 10,000 or whatever. But I made my money back pretty much this weekend. Nothing great. It did okay on Showdown. But I hope you guys did well. I hope my picks are helping. I have gotten some feedback that, people are making a little bit of cash due to what I'm doing here. So let's keep it up. Let's have a great RSM Classic. I will do my top plays and fades. I'll get that out tomorrow. Wednesday will be kind of my hidden gems as usual. And like I said, don't stop playing DFS golf at this time, because I think when you get in these tournaments that are not the main focus ones is where, where you can actually make some money if you do a little homework. All the best. And let's go have a great tournament.